Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Sunday, October 21st, and you are listening to episode 179 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So if you guys haven't noticed, I've actually been doing quite a bit more streaming on Twitch lately. So if you haven't had a chance to check me out there, please do, because as I hinted at on last week's show, the 2018 Extra Life streaming event is coming up very soon. It's actually going to be on November 3rd this year, and I am going to be participating in this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the full 24 hours that people want you to do, and that's because I've got other commitments going on that weekend, but I think that I can most likely squeeze in 12 hours straight of Planetside 2 play, maybe even a little more. On November 3rd, that morning, my wife is actually going to be running her first 5K ever. She's been doing the Couch to 5K program, so we're going to be heading down to Plymouth, Massachusetts to do a 5K. I'm not going to run this one. She asked me not to. She said it's going to be her 5K, so she doesn't want me to compete against her, so I need to be at the finish line to take pictures or video or things like that. But I've decided that that's going to be step one of my Extra Life donation spree, and whatever my wife's time is in her 5K is the amount of money that I'm going to donate initially to start and kick off my campaign for Extra Life. So, I mean, if she ends up running, 5K in 30 minutes, 15 seconds, then I'll donate $30.15 to my campaign. Again, sort of like a kickoff to the whole thing. And she's already nervous about it because she's afraid she's going to post an extremely slow time, and we're going to have to, front load a whole bunch of money as a donation. But honestly, I don't care. That's really what Extra Life is all about. And maybe you don't know what Extra Life is. Maybe you've never heard of Extra Life before, but basically, it's one 24-hour period, or this, the Extra Life event itself is usually one 24-hour gaming period where people do either a marathon 24-hour stream or get together on teams and raise money for the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. I personally am saving my donations for the Boston Children's Hospital, and really that's just because that is the closest one to where I live, and obviously I like to support my home state. But you can go out to the extralife.org website, look for Derringer. You'll find Derringer there if you're looking to make a donation towards Extra Life. But even more so, I'd much rather have you guys show up on November 3rd and watch me do some live streaming, or come play with me while I'm live streaming Planetside 2. Make a donation, doesn't matter how small, just to go towards Extra Life, because really this is all about playing games, raising money for sick kids in hospitals so that they can get better and go on to lead normal lives, and also can have access to games and stuff like that themselves while they're stuck in a hospital outside of their normal routine. Kind of tugs at my heartstrings. I'm glad that my daughter was born healthy, no issues, never had to spend any time in a hospital. But I know that there's a lot of children out there that aren't as lucky, or parents that aren't as lucky as I was with my daughter. So I'm kind of surprised I haven't done this before. I've known other people doing this, but it's now for me to kind of jump on the bandwagon as well and get on and do this. If you're curious about my page, I'll include a link to my page on this week's show notes that you can click through. If you're looking to make an early donation, you certainly can. But the bigger thing is look for me when I'm streaming live on November 3rd, and I'm thinking I'm going November 3rd into November 4th. It's daylight savings as well here in the U.S., so I'm going to get an extra hour in on top of that. And I've got a soccer game that I've got to go to at 8 a.m. on Sunday. I'm going to do my best to try and stream from around noon on the 3rd until maybe I have to leave for my game. I've got to travel about a half hour to get to my game, so I'd probably need to leave here at 7 o'clock at the latest. So maybe noon on Saturday to 7 a.m. on Sunday. I'm looking to just play Planetside 2 straight through, and we'll go from there. So other than that, I've been playing a lot of Planetside 2. I got my Ecto Blaster on my NC character, and I finally feel like I have a Lasher on NC, and I'm really enjoying that. And I've been playing a lot with random outfits within game itself. And stuff like that. But let's move on to this week's show. So what's in store for the show this week? Well, first, the biggest thing out there right now is Nick Silva's producer's letter that was released last week. So I want to talk about that and talk about some of the little details that he teased within it and stuff like that. After that, I want to talk about Community Smash number 6, which happened over the weekend. I did not take part, but I did watch. Then I'd like to talk about some construction information and then finish up with some of my thoughts on the status and future of the Briggs server. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. All right, so like I said, first up this week is the October 2018 producer's letter that Nick Silva released, and he wrote that it had been a while since he's written an official producer's letter, but felt that this was the correct time or right time to take a moment to address the current events in Planetside 2 and their plans for at least the PC version of Planetside 2. He does say that he prefers to communicate via Twitter and Reddit as some of the more less formal methods, but every now and then he does need to release a producer's letter. And specifically because of all the recent events that happened because of the Halloween 2018 updates. He says this producer's letter is all about PC side of Planetside 2, not the PS4 side, and he says they are aware that there are issues that they've been battling on about that, and that's going to be saved for another day, but wants PS4 players to know that those are still on their radar and they have not given up on the PS4 side of the game itself. So within the letter itself, he starts off by saying they've deployed the Nanite of the Living Dead 5 Seeds of Terror game update to the PC. And then shortly after it going live, they started receiving reports of players who were having trouble connecting or being disconnected shortly after connecting to a zone. He said it took them several days to investigate it, but finally pinned down this cause to a specific type network error generated by certain client setups. Previous to the update, that type of error was handled on their system, but after the update, it now causes zones to enter a state where no messages will be received from clients right after connecting. And therefore, bam, you get disconnected, or you can't connect to the game itself. He says they do have a speculative fix that's ready now, but there are ongoing complications that are preventing them from deploying any fixes to the live servers. They're still hoping to patch as soon as possible, and they'll have further announcements about the fix going out as soon as they're in the clear. Now, since this producer's letter has gone out, Rel has stated on Twitter that, or on Reddit, I apologize, on Reddit, that the update will most likely be hitting this Monday or October 22nd. So if you have been staying away from Planetside 2 because of disconnect issues, it sounds like on Monday you'll be able to get back in game and play some more. So Nick goes on to further say that he wants to upfront and to begin with apologize to everybody who's been affected by the issue. It's obviously not their intent to have a broken game that people cannot play. So as compensation, they're going to extend the Halloween event so that it runs through to November 11th. So if you're curious on a calendar, that means it's going to be going all the way. And, and the last time I speculated, I thought it would go until the 9th. But the 11th is actually a Sunday this year, so it's going to end on Sunday, November 11th. And it looks like it's going to go throughout the entire day on Sunday, on the 11th. So it's not like it's going to end on the 10th and it's off on the 11th or anything like that. It's going to run through the 11th. He says they're also working with the customer service team to grant month-long boosts and other make goods to players who have been affected by this issue. So if you're one of the few that hasn't been able to connect or are getting disconnected, it does seem like they have a way to identify who these people are. But I would probably stay tuned for some sort of information on how you can make sure that your name is one of the ones that they're aware of. He also says that they're going to be running a double XP for all week starting on October 22nd, that's tomorrow on Monday, and then running all the way through the 26th. And that's actually going to overlap with the Friday of their Members Double XP weekend, because Members Double XP is the 26th, 27th, and 28th. And that means on the 26th, you're going to have members-only quadruple experience for that day. So if you're someone like me who's a member, you better be damn sure that on the 26th, I'm going to log in and play as much as I possibly can. And Rel did also confirm, to piggyback on this, that PS4 players are also going to get this double XP, and the PS4 Halloween update should go out on Monday as well. So PS4 folks should be looking into that. Now, moving along, Nick says that he can't get too far into the details of how the issue is introduced into the game, other than that they have been incorporating the latest version of the Daybreak Forge Light engine from their core technology group. And what that will do is it will enable them to take advantage of many updated systems and tools that ultimately will pave the way for heavier support of Planetside 2 in the years to come. And he says one example might be enhanced server scripting support that enables the much more complicated and interesting game rules we have planned for the new Osher content. He also says that profiling and debugging tools have also improved, which has been incredibly helpful for the team. He says that that's definitely not everything, and I'll leave one of the biggest tech upgrade reveals that I'm most excited about for another day. Now, for me and for also other players who read that line, it makes many people wonder if the next tech update that they're looking is a DirectX improvement of the game itself. Now, a lot of people have been crying that Planetside 2 still uses DirectX 9. It should get up to DirectX 11 at least, or maybe move on to even newer stuff than that. But that might be, at least that's what I think it might be. Now, I have not asked Nick what it's going to be because A, he wouldn't tell me, and then B, even if he did tell me, that's not something he would allow me to reveal to listeners until he's ready to reveal something like that to listeners. So we just kind of got to sit back and wonder what that tech upgrade is going to be. And I'm assuming that's the big mic drop that they keep hinting at on their live stream. Now, he ends the producer letter by saying that he wants to thank everybody as usual. Without the community, the game would not exist. And he says that our energy investment in playing makes what we do possible. So we didn't get a lot from him regarding this. It's just a standard, here's what happened. We understand what happened. Here's your standard apology. Here's how we're going to fix it. Here's some timelines for how we're going to fix it. Here's some extra things we're going to throw at you as compensation for what got messed up. And I think that's good enough in a producer's letter. I know a lot of people have been inconvenienced by not being able to play this game. I know a lot of people have gone on and are playing something like Black Ops instead of Planetside 2 while this stuff is down. But I do think the producer's letter, while not going as in depth as someone like me might have liked it to. I would love all the information. I think it went enough in depth to explain that they're aware of it, that they're fixing it, when the next patch is going to come out, and what compensation they're going to be throwing at us to kind of make amends for stuff like that. So that's the producer's note, the producer's letter from Nick Silva. Interesting stuff in there, and it's done nothing but raise speculation on what that big tech upgrade reveal is going to be in the future. But with that, let's move on to our second topic this week. And that second topic is Community Smash number 6, which just happened yesterday on October 20th. I don't know if a lot of you got to participate in this or not. Unfortunately, I did not participate in it. I'm not going to lie to you. Saturdays are my yard work day, around the house get shit done day. So I could not just break off at the time this was happening to kind of play in the Community Smash, even though I like playing in these events. Just Saturday didn't really work for me. In the winter, that's not a problem, because in the winter, I'm not doing as much outdoor stuff around the house, fixing stuff up. So, I mean, because yesterday I was mowing the lawn, I was raking leaves, I was, draining the pool, I was putting away the rest of my, the filter and the pump for the pool, everything like that. I was just too busy yesterday to get in on a Community Smash. But I did get a chance to go and watch the replay of the Community Smash itself. And I got to see that it was good to see that Pharaoh was casting it again. He was also joined by someone named Addypick, who I'm not familiar with. Maybe he's casted before and I'm just not aware that he's casted before. I'm not going to lie, I had some trouble understanding him due to his French accent, but that's probably more me than anything else. But this was basically an NC versus TR fight. Force commanders were decided beforehand. The groups were kind of divvied up so that they could fight over on Amerish. And like I said, I watched the whole thing, and it ended sooner than a full game. And it ended with the TR team getting warp-gated by the NC team. And unfortunately, it wasn't the most enjoyable match to watch, again, because the TR team got rolled over pretty hard. I mean, it seemed like the NC team was much faster at reacting to places being taken and much better at attacking bases and taking over bases. There were multiple points where the TR team just kind of left bases undefended that were getting capped easily by NC. At one point, one of the bases, they left it with a few seconds left, just left nobody on the point, and the NC forces dropped on it and ended up stealing it and capturing it. It was a very one-sided game, unfortunately. And listening to the end of it, the TR Force Commander said that he had a couple groups go rogue, not listen to what he was saying, not do what he asked them to, and he also had a few less players than the NC Force did. Not that I think that was the driving force, but I do think having a couple squads go rogue and not listen was probably a bigger issue than anything else for the TR Force Commander. But again, it didn't make it the most enjoyable Community Smash to watch, again, because it just felt like such a heavily one-sided fight. I can imagine if you played on the TR team, you probably were very disappointed on the outcome. I've certainly been on the end of losing server smashes, community smashes, things like that, and they definitely leave a bad taste in your mouth, especially when you think you've got good players on your team. But I'm sure if you played on the NC side, you were pretty happy with the win. I do know I saw a few of the NC guys saying that it was too easy, which is not something that you want to see on a community smash. Not going to lie. But either way, I do like and appreciate Community Smash because it showcases how Planetside 2 can be played from a sort of competitive angle. Now, I understand that this is not a true competitive, esports type game, but it does at least give people viewing it the ability to see that Planetside 2 can be played in a direct, predefined and coordinated game session where you say, we split the map right down the middle. Here's the bases everybody's going to be fighting for. Here's your win conditions. Here's your loss conditions, things like that. So, again, I'm a big fan of Community Smash. I'm a big fan of Server Smash. Whenever they do one of these, I like to promote it. I should have promoted it on last week's show. I just had too many other things to talk about on the show because this is not something, if you are a fan of Planetside 2 and enjoy playing Planetside 2, it's not something I think that you should miss out on playing. You should actually get in and play one of these whenever you have a chance. So I'm going to include a link to the Twitch replay of this that happened yesterday on October 20th. Farah, as usual, does an excellent job casting these, so you get a lot of good insight from him. Some questions for each team. He interviews the force commanders at the end as well. Gets some good information from them on what they did wrong, what happened, stuff like that. It's a decent watch. It's worth your time, and I mean, this is only an hour 45. The game was over, almost a little over an hour in, so you don't even have to spend a whole ton of time, watching everything. It was interesting just listening to it while I was watching some football in the background as well. So again, I'll include a link to this. You guys should at least check it out and give a watch to it. But with that, let's move on to this week's Veteran's Voice. Take it away, Romus.
Those of you with the sharp ear in the audio arts, you may have noticed that I sound more and more like I'm coming to you from an echo chamber. This is because we've been packing up headquarters in preparation for reassignment to Esamir. Maybe you should consider moving elsewhere too. Once a fight gets to massive size numbers, you can't guarantee that you'll be punching with the same force as if you were in a smaller fight. Meat grinders can either be hilarious or hell. In the case of the latter, don't hesitate to move the battle. Grab a bus and head to another lattice link. Chances are, as soon as you start flipping that base, you'll draw a few enemy soldiers your way. This can help your allies in taking that biolab by thinning out the enemies. My best suggestion for accomplishing this is to grab a few friends and some stalker cloaks. If you hang out at the very edges of the capture point, you can flip it and then run when they come to check on you. They'll resecure and check all the corners and the boxes, and then leave. Once they've left and got a little ways away, you can poke your toe back onto the capture point and force them to come back again. Try not to cackle too loudly, though, because they'll start running around like confused wasps. Remember, if you do kick the nest too hard, they will come at you with their stealth-hating flashlights. Keep on your toes. Remember, the only difference between a scrub lord and a Superman is learning from your mistakes. I'll see you next Derringer from way up north. Okay, go, Doug.
Thanks for that, Romus. And if you guys are curious, I did get Romus set up with his own Gmail account. If any of you want to send him a Veteran's Voice request or anything like that, his email address right now is set up as cworomus@gmail.com. I'll make sure that that is also on the Instant Action Podcast website as well. So you guys, if you have anything for Romus, cworomus@gmail.com. You can send him your Veteran's Voice requests right there. And moving on, let's talk about topic number 3 this week, and it's about a comprehensive construction base guide, which was written by a user named Alcon Chloe. I hope I didn't butcher your name too much there, but he's put together a decent guide here, including drain rates of all the different things in the construction bases, some tips, some core things, the different modules that you can have, which includes their exclusion ranges, what their cert costs are to unlock them, what the cordium costs are for them. He also lists all the structures and what those costs are in certs and also in cordium to put them out. He has a full listing of all the defenses, including their exclusion ranges, the cert costs and cordium for those as well. The tactical stuff, like that's your orbital strike, routing spire, flail, etc. Also listing those exclusion radius, safety ranges for the orbital strike, max firing ranges, the cert cost to unlock those things, and also the cordium cost to place them. He also has a listing of the different support vehicles that you can pull from the different terminals there and what their cordium costs are, the light air terminal info, the vehicle ammo dispenser info. It's a really good in-depth guide on everything regarding construction. If you ever needed to just kind of get just your head wrapped around all the different things that are out there for construction right now, and what they do regarding a drain rate for your silo, costs if you're trying to plan, where you're going to spend or how many certs you're going to need to unlock everything. A lot of good stuff in this. And now I know not everybody enjoys construction, but at least we all have to admit at this point with things like the routing spire and the orbital strike uplink and the flail and the glaive and things like that, that we're seeing more and more construction bases within the game itself, and they're being used more and more at various points within the game itself. I've been playing a couple nights these past few weeks with the B-Way guys, and before they even start doing their ops nights, they have a few people going around creating a base so that they can have a routing spire up, so that they can have a router at every single base that they are assaulting, defending, attacking. It doesn't matter. And I mean, we're all affected by orbital strikes with the game itself. So again, this is an excellent guide that they've got going right now. Again, Alcon Chloe put this up. A lot of good information in it. I'm going to include a link to it. If you've missed it, it's something that you should check out. I know Iridar has something similar on his website, iridar.net. But this one is also quite good with a lot of other information on it as well. I'd probably bounce back and forth between the two of them. So, again, Alcon Chloe, thank you for putting this together. I think it's something that my listeners can definitely use. And with that, let's move on to our fourth and final topic this week. And that last topic this week is the state of the Briggs server in Planetside 2. Now, there was recently a post on Reddit from someone who wrote, that it was wrote by Shrooms. He wrote, Briggs is almost dead 24/7. Is it time for a merge? And this got me thinking, is Briggs starting to get towards its life cycle end in Planetside 2? And my first question was, what's the population look like on Briggs? And so obviously the first place I go is to Fizu and see what the current population is for the continent of all the continents, basically. Because I was curious about all of them. So obviously I checked Briggs first. And when you go to ps2.fizu.pw and you do your population tab and you check against Briggs itself, you see that within the last 30 days, the peak number of players on Briggs is 248 in the past 30 days. The average number of players for that same time frame is about 72 players. That is abysmal, I'm not going to lie. When we start looking at the other continents, I mean, Connery has an average of 1,114, or a peak of 1,114. Their average is 517 players on at a time. When you talk about Miller, their peak is 1388 with an average number of 476 players on. Cobalt is almost the same at 1377, 459 average players. Emerald is the largest one with little over 1,400 players and 540 on average on at any time. But again, when you just get back to Briggs itself and when their peak is so much lower. I mean, if you take Emerald as the largest server, 16% of that player base is playing on, almost 17% of their total is what makes up Briggs. And that's just such a minuscule number when it comes to things. I can't even imagine playing with 71 people online on an entire continent. And if you figure if that's got to be split 3 ways, which I'm sure it's not, but I mean, just as an example, if you're splitting 71 3 ways, you're talking about 24 people per faction. That's not even a full platoon. That's 2 squads per faction playing on Briggs on average. And I think, and I hate to say it, I hate to say that it's time to get rid of one of the servers, but if you're not even getting a platoon's worth of players on to play as your average number of players, and I get it. We probably have to look at peak time instead. If we take the peak of 238, we're still talking 79 players, and if you divide that by 12, you're talking about 6.5 or so squads at peak time playing on Briggs. Now, again, if you're taking Emerald as an example, divide that by 3 and then divide that by 12, you're talking about 40 squads at one point. 40 versus 6 is just so different. I don't think that I could play on Briggs. And I apologize, Briggs folks. I'm not trying to denigrate you or anything like that. It just is what it is regarding your population. And I think looking at numbers like that, I think it's time that Briggs is shut down. I know it's not something the developers want to hear. And again, this is just my opinion. You know what they say, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, and I understand that. But when you're getting the population, it's only going to go down from here. Yes, they could launch Osher, and it could bring back a ton of players on Briggs, but the number of players there has always been exponentially lower than all the other servers that are out there. That I think it's time to just be done with it. Now, I know there's no good solution for the folks playing on Briggs because they're experiencing an awesome ping to their Australian server. I hear that trying to go to Connery or trying to go to Soltech is just as bad for both of them. They're getting bad pings no matter which way they go. But I just don't see Briggs as continuing to be sustainable unless there's some major change within the game itself, and that's just not something that I see. So I hate to say it, but I agree with the person who said Briggs is almost dead. I think that it's on its last legs as we speak right now, and I'm sorry to have to report that. But with that, let's move on to housekeeping this week before we wrap up this week's show.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
And I did get a message from Arai this week, and he writes, despite all the technical issues with the recent patch, I'm very happy to hear about the producer's letter and the fact the Forge Light engine is being updated. This is probably the quote-unquote massive technical undertaking that Paul has been hinting at in the Osher Dev live stream. I hope they're able to resolve the current issue soon, and I'm looking forward to see if they eventually include better support for multi-core processors and possibly other features. DirectX upgrade. Performance has always been a bottleneck for Planetside. Speaking of performance, I think people are really happy with the Soltech server, and some folks on Briggs probably want to migrate there too if they had the option. It would be interesting to survey if the majority of Briggs players would be open for a merge. Given that the population is low, I believe many Australians already play on other servers like Connery or EU servers instead of Briggs. And really, it's funny that you say that because, like I said, I've just covered the same thing on the state of Briggs right now. I completely agree with you that maybe after they open the Connery merge to Soltech, that they might want to look into Briggs merge into Soltech. Again, I don't know if that ping is good enough for them, though. I think that they're not going to experience good pings going over there, but we'll have to see. And I definitely agree with everything that you said regarding the producer's letter. Forge Light engine coming in, awesome, like I said before. Hopefully a DirectX upgrade is what they're talking about, which would go an awful long way regarding multi-core processors. I mean, everybody who's playing Planetside 2 has some sort of multi-core processor at this point. So I completely agree with you on all that. So thank you for that message, Arai. That is going to be it for this week's show, though. So again, how can you get in touch with me or the show? Well, first, visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. You can also email me at instantactionshow@gmail.com. You can call me and leave me a voicemail, 347-4VM-4PS2, or that's 347-486-4772 if you just want the digits. The show's Twitter is @InstActPodcast, and my personal Twitter is @TheDerringer. As always, though, in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.